Hey, this is that grey bearded guy again who does real estate and is always recording videos from the backseat of his car. So, today I just wanted to cover something very quick because this is another thing a lot of people ask, that we have sold something or we are buying something. What should we include in the agreement? And I'm like, always like, okay, I'm willing to help you, but why don't you just buy something from me? Just saying, no, just joking. But I'm making this video so I can reduce my work that way, and you can have all those points. So I have this checklist that I use, which every broker actually should have his own checklists and make sure that everything is done. So just showing off a little bit here. So there is this checklist, and so what do you cover in an agreement to sell? Now, for example, you're buying a property or you're selling a property, and maybe the other party sends you an agreement or your lawyer sends you an agreement, and you just want to make sure everything is covered. No, basic stuff. You need to have the buyer and seller details. Needless to say, it should say it also includes any legal heirs, any assigns, any whatever. Yeah, it's usually standard language. You'll have it in an agreement. Won't be a problem. Next thing is basically you want to see how did the current owner, I'm assuming you've seen the documents and the documents are okay and all that, and you just want to include in the agreement, how did the current seller, or maybe it's you or the seller who's selling to you, how did the current owner become the owner? So he bought this property, blah blah blah. That must be included in that. And all I'm saying is just from my experience as a real estate agent, this is not legal advice. You can't sue me later on. So this is a disclaimer, okay? Consult your lawyers. Okay. So preamble, I mean, it's good to have the whole preamble. Preamble is basically property starting mein, it was allotted by the President of India through a perpetual lease to Mr. Gupta, and then he sold it, and then this happened, and that happened, that happened. So this is all preamble. It's not, I don't think it's really necessary, but it's good to include. I mean, you're going to include that in the sale deed, so you can include that here. The next step, very, very important, that you really need to pay attention to every time you get an agreement, even if you're a buyer or a seller, the property description. It needs to say which floor, what all it has. If it has like a space in the stilt, and you need to mention that, like a utility space or something, or if there is a common genset in the building, or if there is whatever else is included, you really need to like mention. The property description must be right. If there are 3 car parkings, 2 car parkings, if you have an exclusive gate, if it is a common gate, you must also have a map attached to the thing, so that attached to the agreement, which clarifies the parking in case there is something such. But that is one important part. And if you say get an agreement and you want to like really look very smart, and you say, yeah, I'll check your agreement, the first thing you check is name. The second is basically this, that what is the property description. Now, of course, the next thing is how much is the amount. So that amount must be correct there. If you're buying something for 5 crores or 10 crores or 50 crores, it should be mentioned there. And then it should also be mentioned how much are you paying at the time of agreement to sell, how much you're going to pay later on. If there are any part payments, or are you going to pay the whole thing in the end? Just the whole breakup of the thing is very important. You check that. Next thing that you want to make sure is there is a timeline on the agreement. Sometimes I've seen an agreement doesn't have any timeline. It's like, this guy will pay you 10 crores and by this time, and that's it. I'm like, yeah, but by when? Like in 2075, or when India becomes a superpower, or when when people start behaving. That's never going to happen. So that is one. So you need to have like a timeline. The payment will be made by so and so date. I'm just checking my checklist on my own phone. So it's the other phone I have. So now what happens if the terms are violated? For example, if the buyer later on says, I don't want to buy, or if the seller later on says he doesn't want to sell. So what do? What can be done? What is the recourse? There should always be a specific performance clause, which basically means, in a very fancy way, it basically means if one party does not do his job, say the buyer tomorrow says, okay, I'm not paying the money, the seller can go to the court, and or the seller says, I'm not selling, the buyer can go to the court and get the sale enforced through the court. It's a little hard, it's a little tricky. How is a seller going to do it? Because the seller will say, okay, give me the money. A buyer will say, I don't even have it, so the court can't order, you earn money and pay him. But there are other things, like you would usually write, if the money is not paid on time, the amount will be forfeited. Or it would also be like, if he refuses later on to sell, I'm going to ask him double the amount. You know, all of those things. Again, I don't think these are very legally enforceable, but they're important to be put because it's a negotiating factor. What actually happens in actuality is you're going to sit with some common friend or common person or go into an arbitration or something, and these things will count. You obviously should do your due diligence, how the person is, if it even seems he's going to keep his word or not. So that's fine, that's the negative part, but yeah, I mean, you have to cover that. So what happens if it gets violated? You also want to put some uh, clause that says exceptions of force majeure, as we call it, like things that are beyond your control. For example, if there is a lockdown and you can't come out of the house, and then the buyer says, "Oh, you're not paying me," or the seller says, "You're not paying me the money," uh, or the buyer says, "Oh, you're not transferring the property in my name. Let's go to the registrar office. The registrar office is closed, or you don't want to come out." It's like say bad COVID stuff is going on or something. So you need to cover those things also there. If there's a force majeure event, then of course the time gets extended, and that's probably obviously very fair, and people shouldn't object to it. In certain, so you would also include like the possession will be handed over when the payment is made or whatever your arrangement is. You would also include the jurisdiction is, for example, in our cases, it is always Delhi, South Delhi, or New Delhi, because we're selling properties in South Delhi mainly. The next thing would be in some properties, you have to have like a public notice clause has to be there in case, say, the originals have been lost. And, so you need to include that. And that also tends to act as a permission from the seller that, yes, you can give a public notice. Originals to be handed over at the time of the sale date, this must be included there, that these are the originals and you're going to hand these over to us. Sometimes the owners say, no, this we are going to keep because my brother is also living on a higher floor and he would need the originals. I mean, that's not going to work. That is there. And then if there is a shared lift, you need to write, like, really mention there what the lift situation is. If there is a loan on the property currently, you need to mention that there is a loan and there are no other encumbrances. I covered this in another video. I'll see if we can put a link here about that one. But if there is a loan, this is like an optional thing. Then you have to put those details also there. Who will close the loan? How will it be closed? How much time will it take? How much time will the buyer have afterwards? So you don't want to basically leave any scope of any disputes later on. That's all you're trying to do. It is very stressful because there's a lot of money involved, dreams involved. Sometimes it's ancestral property, sentiments are involved, and there are other people involved who are tricky or too emotional or confused, upset. So you want to like cover all the bases basically. And if you're liking this content, you must like it. You must click like and share it with other people. So let me know what else I can make, because there are so many things that people keep asking me and I just make videos on those. And I like to keep it light and friendly like that. So this is your gray bearded real estate friend again. I hope I was of some help to you.